Wow, we were looking straight down 6th Avenue. That's the place we would be walking on if we were outside.
Yeah,
and that was a live shot.
We did walk down that street to come into this building, and it's Studio F. Fox and Friends World Headquarters. Jedediah Bila is with us today.
Hey guys, ecstatic to be here.
Great to have you.
Good times.
Let's see if you feel the same way at the end of 3 hours.
I'll let you know.
This is a slice of your life that you'll never get back.
Oh, great. I feel like it's the middle of the night.
Yes, it is.
Kind
For some.
Well, you know, normally you were in this room doing the 5. Right now, you're doing the 6.
Yeah, and I've done the weekend show too, with Pete and Ed. So it was about time that I got here. What took so long?
Yeah, good question. Well, anyway, we've got 3 hours. It starts right now with this news. Hundreds of additional troops headed to our southern border as we expect even more shutdowns and confrontations, according to what the government has heard.
Wait, I thought this wasn't supposed to happen. We've just learned that the migrant caravan includes 600 known criminals.
Griff Jenkins is live on the ground in Tijuana with the alarming new details. Griff?
Good morning, guys. And Jedediah, it is the middle of the night here, just after 3 a.m. You can look, we're outside the main sports arena, which is the largest shelter for the migrants here in Tijuana. And I'm going to bring you this way and show you over here. If we look inside this stadium, you'll be able to get a look at just how many are here. We learned yesterday from DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen that there's some 8,500 total migrants along the border, a little over 6,500 here, another 2,000 over in Mexicali, which is about 2 hours ahead. We learned, that, of course, the stunning number, which is that 600 of them believed to have had criminal histories. But we've also learned another figure that's very interesting, and that is 90% they believe are not eligible for asylum, which is, of course, the main reason why they're fleeing the Central American countries. They tell us from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. And, of course, there was the attacks we saw on Sunday that the Border Patrol had to employ tear gas across that. We've learned that at least 4 Border Patrol agents were injured in those attacks. The Mexican officials actually sending an official letter to the U.S. side wanting to know why that was used, an investigation of sorts. But I talked to about a dozen folks here, all males. And that is, of course, something that Nielsen has told us. It is mostly males here, and that's what we've seen this morning. But about 12 to 14 of them, actually, about 2 hours ago, tried to scale the fence. I'll just show you the fence. Even though it's dark, you can see along the highway. That structure in the distance, sort of a metal, that is the U.S.-Mexico border. Across that highway is San Diego, the San Ysidro port of entry, just about a quarter of a mile from this place where we're standing right now. And all 14 of them got over that fence a little farther to the west of us, and the Border Patrol told them to turn back. Now, the Border Patrol calls that a turn back. They see that as a success. They didn't climb the fence, jump over, and ask for asylum. These people came back. They told me in about 3 days they're going to try again, guys.
I bet. Griff, a real quick question for you. I know that on Sunday when there was that race toward the United States border, hundreds were involved. Apparently they have identified via videotape 500 of them. What's going to happen to those people? Will they be deported, or are they going to be allowed to stay there?
Great question. The Mexican officials tell us that they intend to deport not only the 500 or so that they arrested and apprehended and identified on this side of the border, but also anyone else that does try it. Now, one thing that you have to take into consideration, I'll talk perhaps later in the day about this, is that this is impacting the business. When that border shut down for about 8 hours on Sunday, it absolutely froze business that normally happens, legal business between San Diego and Tijuana, and that is a real concern for the folks that live here and the real weight that these migrants in this caravan is bringing on top of them. We're going to try and get in there a little later and talk to some of the folks, but so far we're not actually aware, to your question, Steve, of anyone that has been actually deported, but it's early yet. We'll talk to some officials later on this morning.
Indeed. All right. Griff Jenkins live on the border in Tijuana. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Griff.
I was reading in the San Diego paper this morning that there are a number of doctors in Tijuana who have a lot of patients who live in San Diego and then come down there, but because the border was closed on Sunday and the crackdown, it's hard for them to see their patients.
Yeah, and it's really crazy. I mean, if you think about this, like, what is the solution going to be? I mean, what are they actually going to do to remedy this? Trump is saying, you know, I'll shut down the border. It seems like he doesn't have the authority to actually do that he would need congressional approval to do that. So what's going to happen here?
Well, we know one thing. 98 people involved in Sunday's raids were sent out by Mexico. They have no shot at asylum. Their names have been taken, and they've been tossed. If you want to send a message to these migrants. And if you want to send a message to Mexico, since this is their problem as well as our problem, maybe they'll get tougher on their southern border and won't be so permissive, sending buses in some cases to expedite their trip up to our border. We might be on the same page right now because of scenes that you're looking at.
Well, the president did a pair of rallies yesterday for the Republican running for the U.S. Senate in the great state of Mississippi, Cindy Hyde-Smith. He was very clear when he was in Biloxi. People have a choice. When it comes to the Republican Party, that is a party that is going to respond to the trouble on our southern border. And for those people down in Tijuana and elsewhere, the president's message was, turn around, please, just go home.
You look at what's happening on our border, and you see people coming up by the thousands. And frankly, if we didn't show them strength and a strong border, you would have hundreds of thousands of people pouring into our country. We are doing a job, and we will continue to do a job. We're doing what's right. Republicans are committed to halting this incursion and defending the sovereign borders of the United States. We are sending a simple message to the lawless caravans and to the illegal trespassers marching toward our border. It's very simple. Turn back now. Go back home. We will not let you in. We are not going to let you in.
Remember, this wasn't supposed to be a problem. Remember, the president was talking about this caravan because he wanted to do the best he can to keep the House and expand his lead, the Republican lead in the Senate. So that looks like the president, since the midterms, I believe, are virtually over, with one Senate race to go and a handful of House races. I don't really see a political advantage to the president doing this 2 years away from his reelection. But I do see some real legitimate danger for a border authority. Kevin McClean is the commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection. He told reporters yesterday that there were dozens of assaults committed against his agents. So here were projectiles. 4 had to have medical tending to. Protective gear prevented some serious injuries. And again, they're getting hit by things by people who are storming the border, trying to create havoc there in order to get into our country. But for some reason, we seem to be making the border guards the enemy.
I think there's a high expectation that President Trump, you talked about why he's talking about this, it's far from his election. Remember, this is an issue that he ran on. Arguably, this is the reason why he won. He put this front and center. He talked about border security. People are deeply concerned when you have people, from DHS coming out and saying that 600 of the 10,000 people that are in these caravans are convicted criminals. This is an issue dear to people's hearts. They need to protect their families, and they want the security of the nation to be a top priority. So I think that's why he's out front and center and making this a key issue, regardless of how far his own election is from it.
But he's actually not making an issue. I think he's addressing an emergency. If this wasn't his issue, if any president in office right now, this would be their issue.
Right.
He just had predicted it ahead of time.
Look, if as we look at some of that video, if an agent with the U.S. Border Patrol is struck by a rock in some sort of confrontation like you're seeing right there, they are going to respond. So says Rodney Scott, the chief patrol agent for the San Diego sector. Listen to this.
Our agents defended themselves and those around them by deploying the safest tool we had at that time, which is pepper gas, if you will. It's basically a pepper-based gas. It's an irritant. There's no long-term effects. I inhaled quite a bit of it myself. I was out there on Sunday as well. But we did that to protect the crowds. We took this caravan very serious from day one. It's like no caravan we've ever seen before. You've heard reports that caravans happen all the time. That's true, but not caravans that have a propensity for this type of violence and not these massive numbers of people.
And the president yesterday, as he was leaving the White House, he said very clearly, nobody is going to get in this country illegally.
Yeah, and these Border Patrol agents cannot be vilified for doing their job. I mean, what are they supposed to do if you have people throwing rocks at you and swarming the border and hitting you? I mean, that is an attack. You have to do something to protect. Your job is to secure and protect that border. And so that's what you need to do. What is the expectation? Otherwise, they're supposed to just get hit with rocks and what? Just stand there?
Well, I just think it also plays into the president wanting to fully finance that wall, or at least get $5 billion to build the wall, because this is part of the problem. We can't keep sending troops down there to put razor wire up in the huge gaps in our border. I think it makes him want to double down. I would not be surprised if he's more convicted than ever to shut down the government if he doesn't get his money.
Well, listen, on Sunday, I think it was about 50 people got through a hole in the wall. We've been talking about that wall in between San Diego and Tijuana for a long time. Why is there a hole in it?
Yeah. And also, though, Brian,
Just
Republicans are always, they're never gutsy enough. They always worry, oh, shut down the government. They feed into this frenzy about it. You have to do something about this. This isn't just about a wall. This is about the entire immigration system needs to be looked at, what qualifies for asylum, whether or not these people need to be at a port of entry. All of this stuff needs to be carefully looked at. And now is absolutely the time to do it.
And now I think is absolutely the time to go to Jillian Mealy, because it's time to look at you as you tell us what's going on.
I absolutely agree with you. Good morning. Welcome back, Brian. These are some of the stories we're following, starting with this. An American hero killed in action is home. The remains of Army Ranger Leandro Jasso returned to the U.S. overnight. The 25-year-old from Washington State lost his life during a gunfight with al-Qaeda. He is the 10th American service member killed in Afghanistan this year and the second this month. Friends described him as charismatic, hardworking man who was determined to join the Army since he was a child. UN Ambassador Nikki Haley blasting Russia for seizing 3 Ukrainian ships near Crimea.
What we witnessed this weekend is yet another reckless Russian escalation. It is an arrogant act that the international community must condemn and will never accept.
Russia claims it opened fire on the vessels after they crossed into their waters illegally. Ukraine now imposing martial law for the next month. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is calling on Russia to return the ships. Today, Nancy Pelosi is meeting with Democrats, threatening to withhold their support for House Speaker. Members of the Problem Solvers Caucus demanding she change rules to make it easier for bipartisan bills to reach the floor. This is a live look in Washington, where those meetings will take place. Tomorrow, Democrats will vote to nominate the next leader of Congress. And it is Christmas at the White House. First Lady Melania Trump unveiling this year's theme, American Treasures. It recognizes our nation's unique heritage and features 29 trees. The First Lady also hanging this homemade Be Best wreath made out of pencils. It highlights her anti-cyberbullying initiative. Also displayed the White House Christmas card signed by the President, First Lady, and their youngest son, Barron. I never get tired of seeing the White House lit up like that. It's so
pretty.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
I love those trees, those bright red trees.
All 29?
Ainsley got a behind-the-scenes tour last
wow.
night. You'll see it live here on Fox & Friends later this
Good
week.
stuff. I like the
tape
pop of
replay.
color, Brian.
I do too.
All right. Meanwhile, on this Tuesday, President Trump defending his zero-tolerance
He
policy.
tried to do it differently, but Obama had a separation policy, but people don't like to talk about it.
Wow, President Trump defending a zero-tolerance policy at the southern border, pointing out his administration is not the only one to have separated children from their parents when they cross the border illegally. So what was the origin of his policy, and why was it instituted? Let's ask Andrew Arthur. He's a resident fellow in the new in law and policy for the Center of Immigration Studies and joins us right now. Andrew, is it true, same policy?
President Obama had a policy in which there would be separation of families, but that primarily existed for parents who had drugs or serious criminal records, and also for parents that posed a danger to their children or where there was fraud. The Trump administration has had to respond to a much different situation, a situation on the ground where massive numbers of individuals have realized that if they come to the United States with their children, that they can exploit our very lax immigration laws at the border. Last month, or in October, we saw 23,121 family units enter the United States illegally, and that was a 150% increase over just July of 2018. So President Trump is facing a very different situation today than President Obama faced even 4 years ago.
Yeah, so this is getting worse and worse, and one thing is consistent, nothing's ever done. Ben Cardin yesterday said the administration has done nothing to help our immigration system. I think it's been the president's focus from day one. Operation Streamline, though, was an example of an operation that was put in place in 2005. President Bush had a problem with illegals. It was started by him. It was referred all illegal immigrants for prosecution if they crossed with no explanation, exceptions for adults traveling with children. Next thing you know, we got unaccompanied adults by the time President Obama, unaccompanied children by the time President Obama came in office. So that wasn't taken well.
Right, and President Obama attempted to, detain those unaccompanied adults, but unfortunately, under what is now a 21-year-old settlement agreement called the Flores Settlement Agreement, we're only able to detain those children in DHS custody for 20 days, and then they have to be released. Needless to say, if you know that if you come to the United States and you're only going to be detained for 20 days, it's going to make it more likely that you come to the United States. Worse, parents paid smugglers, some of the worst human beings on the face of the earth, many of whom are in league with the cartels, are being paid by the cartels to bring their children to the United States. And in essence, DHS completed the jobs of the smugglers by bringing those children to their parents in the United States. An absolutely reprehensible policy of the Obama administration.
Andrew Arthur, thanks so much. This is something that Democrats and Republicans should look at as a crisis and could come together. Politics should not play a role. We're already looking at 2020 and people grabbing this issue rather than solving the problem. I think it's sickening. Andrew, thanks so much.
Republican Cindy Hyde-Smith fighting to keep her seat against Democratic challenger Mike Espy. Jonathan Seri is live in Ridgeland, Mississippi with what to expect today. Hey, Jonathan, the key is to remind people, we know you voted 3 weeks ago, but you got to do it again.
And just 4 days after Thanksgiving, Steve, that's right. President Trump came to visit, made 2 campaign stops in Tupelo and Biloxi. What he's trying to do is expand the Republican majority in the Senate. Take a listen.
If we win tomorrow, we'll be at 53-47, which is substantially more than we had.
In a red state that Trump won by a margin of more than 18 percentage points, Republican Cindy Hyde-Smith has the advantage. But she made several gaffes during the campaign, including a joke about attending a public hanging. Last night, Hyde-Smith's opponent, Democrat Mike Espy, attended a gospel event at a church in Jackson. Although he's expected to do well among African-American voters in a state that has the highest percentage of black residents in the country, one Democratic strategist tells Fox News Espy must get more than 20% of the white vote in today's runoff in order to win.
I know I can't win only with black votes. That's never been where we are. We've got to get votes from everybody.
And police are investigating a series of nooses and signs that appeared on the eve of the election on the state capitol grounds. The offending items have been removed. Back to you guys.
All right, Jonathan, thank you very much for the live report. Now downstairs to Jedediah.
Well, a Chinese researcher claims that he helped make the world's first genetically edited babies. The man, scientist He Jiankui, says he used a new tool to alter the DNA of twin girls to make their bodies resist HIV and AIDS injections. But is this taking science a step too far? Joining me now, Fox News medical contributor Dr. Nicole Saphier. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Jedediah.
When I saw this story, it did alarm me a little bit. Is this ethical, what this guy is doing?
Well, it's obviously a big controversial debate, and in my opinion, that what happened in China is just disregarding biomedical ethics and showed imprudence when it comes to genetic, medical ethics, anything you want to call it. What was done is actually in China. Now, mind you, this has not been published in any sort of journal, reputable journal for us to even look at. This is just something he said he did to the Associated Press. So we can't confirm or deny that this happened. But if he did it, he has gone against all of U.S. regulations. And even though Chinese regulations are lax, they said that they had no awareness of what he was doing. And what he did was he altered embryo DNA before putting it into a woman so that they would be resistant to getting HIV, which their father had. However, the huge problem with this, well, by the way, I should say gene editing is big in the medical industry right now, and we are using it in the United States. We're not using it routinely, but we have a lot of studies right now to help people who have genetic mutations, who have cancer or just disabling diseases, and we're trying to fix that. What he's doing is he's actually making a healthy individual almost superhuman. But when you put it into an embryo, that can go into all of their future children if they were to have that. And we don't know if they're going to be on target or off target down the line ramifications of that. And so a lot of people feel that you are experimenting with humans.
Right. Isn't that? And some have argued that it could be dangerous to do that with embryos because you could be, by altering the genes, making them susceptible to other conditions or other diseases. Is that possible?
That's what we're talking about. These on-off target ramifications. We don't know what's going to happen down the line, and there are not long-term studies of what he did. He just altered the DNA. So what will happen to this child? Who knows, down the road, or their offspring? We don't know.
Is it possible that we could see something like this in the United States?
Well, we are seeing something right now in the United States, as I said, that we're using it to work on helping
like
disease.
Something
well,
like
that's what we get concerned about. The U.S. is saying no to this. We have drawn that line in the sand. But there are other countries where you may have healthy or wealthy individuals actually travel abroad to go get these designer babies. Maybe they choose higher IQ, higher athletic performances. I mean, that's an entirely different ballgame.
Yeah, slippery slope there for sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
More on our top story. Extra troops. Oh, what do voters think of President Trump's message on the border at his rallies last night? Todd Pirro is having breakfast with friends in Mississippi. We'll check in with him next. And do you have questions about how to ace that interview and land your dream job? Go to our Facebook page to send them to us. We have an...
You're right. You're right, and we had a lot of it built, and it's going up. We're not letting people into our country unless they come in legally.
There you got the president of the United States. He was out on the stump twice for the Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate down in the great state of Mississippi, talking a lot about immigration and the situation on our southern border. Griff Jenkins is live on the ground near where thousands of the migrants are in Tijuana. Griff, who you got with you?
You know, I'm here with Eduardo from Honduras, Steve, and we're getting a little insight into the situation. Eduardo, what is the situation with the caravan here?
Good morning. The caravan here is not easy because so many people working for one side, and other people coming straight, and other people on the right side and left side. Nobody he's the big man, the boss.
No organization?
No organization.
And food and water?
And the food and the water. The food, one week ago, a lot of food you can eat in 3 times a day. Now you can eat only 1 time. See, so many people sleeping outside in the street. It's not easy because, eat good. You eat only 1 time a day. You drinking water a little bit. You're thinking about 1 month. What happened in 1 month?
And finally, Eduardo, what do you planeas a cruzar?
I want to try no illegal. I need to talk to somebody. Necesito hablar con alguien para que nos escuchen.
All right, Eduardo, thank you. And you can see here, Steve, the folks sleeping. And, he says he wants to come illegally. But if you look at what we got from DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen yesterday, she says that of this group, believed to be about 8,500, 90% of them do not qualify to be eligible for asylum. And we've also learned that number of 600 or more may have criminal histories. And that is certainly a point as we continue to sort of learn about what's happened here, as we also look into the tear gassing and the situation we saw just on Sunday with the folks here. We did meet a little bit earlier with the second group this morning that we've already seen that was returning from trying to go over that wall. So there's clearly a lot of folks still trying to get across, but clearly not the situation that we saw on Sunday yet. Steve?
Griff, a lot of those Border Patrol agents will tell you that the people in these countries that come here know our policies better than we do. So it's important, if they hear that we're accepting a lot of migrants, they're going to flood. If we hear it's going to be tough sledding, they might stay. Do you think they're getting the message is getting down, that America is saying we're taking a stand now?
Well, not yet, Brian. If Eduardo, the gentleman I just talked to, I said, is there more caravan on the way? We've heard that, but does he know? He says he knows for a fact there's at least a third or fourth caravan still coming with about 1,000 people. And when you talk about the Border Patrol having pull factors, meaning it's a pull factor to bring more caravans, people are still en route here from those Central American countries until they fully know exactly how we, the United States, boats, and the Tijuana officials, at least here in the San Ysidro port, are going to handle the situation. Another final point very quickly is that Eduardo said, listen, anybody could quickly pay money to one of the criminal organizations, a cartel, and get across, but they want to do it either legally or illegally on their own without spending money because they have no resources.
All right. Griff, we thank you very much.
Thanks, Griff.
And Eduardo made it very clear he would like to do it legally.
Yeah, and what he said in Spanish was that he wants to talk to someone who will listen to him. So
there you go. All right. Meanwhile, the president, as we said, was in Mississippi. He was in Tupelo, and he was at Biloxi. And Todd Pyro is live at the Port City Cafe in Biloxi right now, talking to the folks about the president's visit. Todd?
Hey, good morning, guys. It is a local race between Cindy Hyde-Smith and Mike Espy, but it has huge national implications. So we're talking about the national issues of the day, and we'll begin with husband and wife, John and Patty. John, when it comes to the caravan, you say immigrants need to come the right way. Why?
Absolutely. They just can't storm the border like that. I mean, I'm all for everyone coming over here, but you need to do it the right way. You need to go through the right procedures, not just storm our border.
And this is a particularly important issue for you and your family because Patty, your mother immigrated legally from Mexico. When you see the caravan, what do you think?
I think it's a big strain on the infrastructure of the country of Mexico. They find it difficult. The mayor of Tijuana is going crazy there, trying to control everything. I believe everybody needs to be vetted before they come into this country, and they need to do it legally, the way my family has and the way everybody has before them.
Thank you, John and Patty.
Thank you.
Tricia, let's switch gears to the economy for a moment. You are a realtor, and you say you have seen an increase in sales since President Trump took office. Why do you think that is?
Jobs, very, very good jobs. Loosened regulation has opened the market.
If you were to sort of give a percentage of what it was during the Obama administration and what it is now during the Trump administration, how much of an increase have you seen?
Our business has doubled.
Doubled? In 2 years, your business
has doubled.
Wow. All right. Thank you very much, Tricia. And finally, Horace, Navy veteran, thank you for your service, sir. Quickly, you say people are going to turn out to vote today. Why?
Well, I believe they will because the people that voted for Daniels will turn out for Ms. Smith.
So you say the third place candidate, their votes are going to go to Cindy Hyde-Smith. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your time. Back to New York.
All right. Todd, talking to the folks in Biloxi. Todd, thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
I vote for Jillian.
Thank you. What are we voting for?
What's she running for?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, if I had a vote,
she's got the job.
If I could toss to anybody, it would be Jillian.
Oh, that just warms my heart. Thank you so much. All right, here are your headlines that we're following, starting with this. Former Trump campaign advisor George Papadopoulos waking up behind bars this morning. He's serving 14 days in a Wisconsin prison after pleading guilty to lying to the FBI in the Russia probe. His wife slamming special counsel Robert Mueller on Tucker Carlson tonight.
I feel this decision very unfair. I'm not talking about the decision of the judge, but all the incriminating process fabricated by Mueller. He never betrayed anyone. He simply didn't deliver the information that Mueller was probably trying to extort from him.
Papadopoulos lied to the FBI about contact with Russia while working for the Trump campaign. Okay, salad lovers, go ahead and pack that salad for lunch. Some romaine lettuce is safe to eat, depending on where it was grown. The FDA says romaine linked to the E. coli outbreak likely came from Central and Northern California. At least 43 people in 12 states have gotten sick. Most of the cases reported in California. Beto O'Rourke is no longer ruling out a presidential run in 2020. The failed Texas Senate candidate changing his mind after his loss to Republican Ted Cruz.
I was 100% focused on our campaign, winning that race. Now that that is no longer possible, we're thinking through a number of things.
O'Rourke says he will not make a final decision on 2020 until he leaves Congress in January. And look at this. These siblings know the meaning of teamwork. A little girl caught on camera helping her sister escape from nap time. The 4-year-old positioning a chair next to the crib to help the toddler climb out. Dad watched their great escape on a baby monitor in their California home. You know, when you're young, you don't know how much you appreciate those naps when you're older.
Oh, yeah. I like a good nap.
I love a nap.
We're taking one after this show.
All right. Meanwhile, let's go outside on the streets of New York City, and Janice Dean is tracking a winter storm in the Midwest.
It feels really cold here in the Northeast. What's your name? Where are you from?
Kara. I'm from Raleigh.
It's pretty cold here in New York.
Yes, it is cold.
But you're enjoying the Christmas festivities.
I love it.
Do you want to say hi to anybody at home?
I want to say hi to my husband, Bill, and my son, LT.
Hi, Bill and LT. Let's take a look at the maps and see what's going on across the country. Yes, it is cold behind the system that brought a lot of snow and blizzard conditions across the Midwest. Moving across the Northeast, so the interior Northeast, the Great Lakes, that's where you're going to see the bulk of the heaviest snow. It's going to kind of linger for the rest of today. So if you live in northern New England, across those Great Lakes, that's where you're going to see the snowfall. Here's our next weather maker moving into the west, bringing heavy rain and mountain snow to the Sierra Nevada range. We could see upwards of 2 feet, and there is your forecast today. Thanks for hanging out with me today.
Thank you.
You look so
It's
pretty.
a pleasure.
Okay. Hi, husband and son at home. We're going to go Christmas shopping.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, JD.
Bye.
All right, the crowd gradually built throughout the 3 hours. Coming up next, a new twist in the special counsel investigations, accusations that Paul Manafort violated his plea deal by lying. What happens next? Judge Napolitano saunters our direction.
That's right.
Who could have predicted
But
that?
first, do you have questions about how to ace that interview and land your dream job? If so, go to our Facebook page to send them to us. We have an expert there to answer them live in minutes.
That looks like